What's up guys, and welcome back to another Reddit reading video. Let's get right into the stories. Ask for toppings on the side. Get them on the side. So this one is short, stupid, and possibly a little petty, but I think it's good. I work at a popular pizza place and we have a deal going on right now for a large 3-topping pizza for $11.99. People really like to take advantage of these deals. So we had an order today of a large pizza that was half 3 ingredients and half the exact same ingredients, and they put in the special instructions jalapeno side. What that typically means is that for some reason the website wouldn't let them put a certain ingredient on half of the pizza, and they want to make sure it gets on there, and we are typically very accommodating, but I realized what they were trying to do. They wanted to get the 3-topping deal but have 4 topping on part of their pizza. This typically wouldn't be a problem and we would make the pizza as the customer requested, but my coworkers and I were feeling petty. Sometimes people request half toppings put in a sauce cup because only one person wants it on their pizza, so that is what we did for them. Grabbed a little sauce cup and put some jalapenos in it. Because they did only say side, so we put it on the side. I'm curious to see whether they will call back and complain. Edit. After seeing many comments, I feel like I did not explain it well enough. Based on how the customer placed the order, it was obvious that they wanted jalapenos on half of the pizza, which would result in them not getting the coupon. So they wrote it in the instructions and we gave them some jalapenos in a tiny cup on the side of the pizza, not on the actual pizza. Don't say anything to you. Fine. I won't. Sorry. This will be long but an interesting read, I think. Let me know what you think. As a preface, I work in the security and law and enforcement industry. This story takes place in an old county jail during the height of COVID. At the time, I, female, was a female correctional officer running my own unit in a majority male populated and employed facility. It took a few months, but I had finally earned the respect and trust of most of the inmates. It was drilled into my head from day one to always be firm, fair, and consistent, and I was. That is how I succeeded in running a unit efficiently, though it wasn't without its issues, namely inmates jamming their door with toilet paper and other miscellaneous items. Now, this wasn't your typical or even stereotypical jail. It was old and had huge steel, maybe metal, doors. Think big doors with a small glass window, not actual bars, like most doors. It had the metal mechanism and slot in the center of the door, which was responsible for keeping the door locked and secured. Most everything that had to be unlocked was controlled by a big, old, clunky control board. Only a select few units had computerized systems. My job was mainly the control officer, which consisted of operating the control board, answering the phones, key holder, filing daily paperwork, etc. Said control board had a variety of buttons, but was mostly used to let inmates slash codes in and out, turning on TVs, and turning the mezzanine lights on and off on each unit. It should also be noted that as a control officer, you almost never have direct contact with inmates, as you are higher up in a fishbowl or bubble as we called it. We control officers had to find unique ways to interact and converse with the inmates. All of this will be important later. Now onto the story. On this rare day, I was assigned a block officer, same unit, except now I am patrolling the blocks and spending the majority of my shift having direct supervision over the inmates. I was always one to make my presence known, patrolling every 20 minutes, 30 minutes, even when there was no rec and inmates were locked in. Sitting on the block during recreational hours, random cell inspections, the works. On this particular morning, I was conducting my first tour of B block and asked the control officer to inform me of the doors that were not secure. My coworker notified me that B108 was not secure, and I promptly made my way over there. You see, there were colored lights under each door, red-green, indicating whether a door was secure or not. The inmates were expected to keep their door secure during non-rec hours. However, there were quite a few inmates who consistently jammed their door, thus being able to escape their cell and do whatever they wanted. These things ranged from taking an unauthorized shower to running into another inmate's cell and shaking them. You can see why that is a problem and creates a huge security risk. The inmates in B108 gave me an issue with this at least once a week. Even when previously housed on C block, they resorted to putting globs of toothpaste in the slot to manipulate the door open. I had had enough. I made them clean it out, and as punishment, they wouldn't be receiving rec during my shift and would be getting a 3-day lock-in. Simply put, that meant no phone calls, showers, TV, tablets, or yard time during the first shift, and only coming out for scheduled appointments. It may sound a bit harsh, but they always got wrecked at some point in the day. And this was one of the few tactics that worked for me. To say that they were livid would be an understatement. The one inmate, who we will call Potty Mouth, PM was fuming and spouting slurs and insults even after I left the block. I didn't care. I had warned them not to jam their door on numerous occasions. 3 days go by and they finally are allowed to resume recreational activities. I am assigned the block again and deliver hall passes, used for inmates to get around the jail, for upcoming video calls. At this time, in-person visits were not allowed due to COVID, and inmates were doing video calls in the visitation room instead. It so happened that one of the inmates, PM, in B108 had a video visit scheduled that day. All visits are made with the knowledge and consent of the inmate days prior. Dates and times 30 minutes are precise due to a limited number of monitors in the visitation room, and there being over 1,000 inmates in the facility. Once your time is up, your time is up. If there is a connection issue or the person doesn't show up, it cannot be pushed back to later in the day. You must reschedule for the upcoming weeks. It's early in the morning, approximately 8:15, and I knock at the door to get the inmate's attention. PM wakes up and immediately starts in on me. What, bitch? I inform him of his visit and slide his hall pass under the door, like your standard hall pass. It has the date, time, or time of appointment, inmate name, unit, blah blah blah. He snatches it up and orders me not to freaking say anything to him. I walk away not wanting to start anything first thing in the morning. Visit started promptly at noon that day, and the inmates began preparing themselves to see their loved ones, taking showers, getting dressed and so on. It's not my job, but I always went out of my way to remind inmates that their appointment was soon, and would let them leave 15 to 20 minutes early so they could walk across the jail and make it there on time. You wouldn't believe how many would play poker or watch TV and would actually get mad at me for interrupting them, trying to remind them they had an appointment. Then, 5 minutes before their visit, they rush to take a shower, run out, and then come back upset that they somehow missed their appointment. I was in the bubble covering for the control officer while they took their lunch when I noticed PM sitting on the table, undressed, sweats and t-shirt, talking to another group of inmates with his back turned to me. I looked at the time and realized it was only about an hour before his video call was scheduled to begin. I then began to flash the mezzanine lights to get his attention. It took at least 2-3 times of me doing this before the other inmates told him to turn around. He looks over his shoulder, assumes I want him off the table, policy violation, and flags me off before turning back toward his friends. Cue malicious compliance. You want me to not say anything to you. You want to ignore me when I'm trying to help you, even after getting cussed out. Fine. I sat and watched as every single inmate on B block got showered and dressed. They were ready to go at least 30 minutes before their visit, all lined up near the door, anxiously waiting for me to let them out. Everybody but PM. No, he wasn't outside playing basketball or on the phone and let the time get away from him. No, he hadn't taken a nap. He was sitting 10 feet away from everyone who was waiting, running his mouth. 20 minutes before the visit start, and I begin letting the inmates into the hallway. I stop one of the nicer inmates and ask, why isn't PM with you guys? He's confused. I say, yeah, I gave him his pass this morning and tried to flash the lights at him. He runs back in to remind PM of his impending video call. PM shoots daggers at me and frantically runs into his cell to get dressed. I smile to myself. Unsurprisingly, he missed his visit. He came back screaming at me for making him late for his video call. I didn't care. I just laughed and said it wasn't my job. The best part is, there was a clock hanging directly above his head, so there was no excuse. TLDR inmate cusses at me and tells me not to talk to him after being punished. I don't, and he subsequently misses a video call. When playing Jenga with electronics is not recommended. In my youth, approximately 20 years ago, I was the delivery driver for a furniture company. We delivered all sorts of things, appliances, electronics, and furniture. There is a misconception that if a delivery driver breaks something on accident, not what they are delivering, something that's already in the house, that the company they work for will replace it with something new. Therefore, people will tend to call and make up false reports or attempt to sabotage said drivers so that they catch the blame for something that is entirely not their doing. So let's step into the Wayback Machine and look it on someone trying to get something for nothing, my partner and I arrived at the location for a bedroom delivery. We knocked on the customer's door and made introductions. The cast as I, Opus, CL for Crazy Lady, and WB for Work Buddy. After making introductions, we asked her to show us which bedroom the furniture was going in and asked her if she had any preferences to the layout. At first, everything seemed to be going smoothly. She wasn't worried about how we set up the furniture, as long as everything fit, which was good, because in general with apartment complexes there is only one really good way to put the furniture in. And WB and I had been delivering long enough that we could generally pick the best spot for each piece of furniture at a glance. We told her that we were going to be unboxing her furniture in the truck and that we would be bringing it in shortly. The first thing to note about this apartment is that there was not any other furniture. This isn't unusual. A lot of people start off slowly, but in the living room she did have one folding chair and 3 standard milk crates stacked vertically with a 19 inches box TV sitting on top of them. For those of you who don't know why this is a horrible idea, 20 years ago 19 inches televisions were bulky, and although not particularly heavy, would be extremely top-heavy sitting on the top of 3 hollow milk crates. More about this in a minute. WB and I started carrying the furniture from the truck into the apartment. Every time we walked by it, we gave the leaning tower of TV a wide berth. We didn't have a deep conversation about it, but before we started bringing the furniture in, we did speak about it briefly to make sure the other one was aware. As we came in with the last piece, the dresser, we mentioned to CL that this was the last piece and that we were going to start assembling her furniture. We made it down the hall and into the bedroom. As we were setting down the dresser, we heard a crash in the living room. Immediately following, we heard a string of cussing. We went back into the living room to make sure everything was okay. And I'll give you 3 guesses, but you'll only need one. The television was on the floor, laying on its side and actually sparking. I quickly stepped up and unplugged the TV, and its life force fizzled out. She began to rant and rave about how we broke her television, and the store owed her a new one. We tried to explain to CL that we were in the bedroom when the television fell, that we weren't responsible, and when all of that failed, we told her that she should probably contact the store, that we cannot promise her anything. WB called the boss and explained the situation to him before she could. So when she called him, he would have our side of the story first. WB and I went and put the bedroom set together as quickly as possible. We got CL to sign for the delivery while she was still talking to our boss, and we got out while getting was good. We got back to the store and met our boss in his office. Somehow, CL managed to convince him that despite the fact that we were in a different room, and that she had the TV basically in a Joker-style hero trap, that it was our fault, and basically, the boss said that it was our responsibility to replace the television, that we had to get her something equal to or better than what she had. Neither WB or I was happy with this, but essentially we were over a barrel. I went home that night, angry because I was getting ready to upgrade my own television and now I was going to have to spend the money on replacing this CL's TV. I went home, had a decent meal, went to my room and started to turn on my television. When I had an epiphany, my hand had stopped just so I had the power button, because I realized that I was staring at her television. Now, I don't mean that it was just a television I was going to give her. I mean it was the exact same RCA model and size as the TV that fell off the tower. It was quite literally the exact same television, people, and this is where the malicious compliance came in. The next morning I brought my television with me to work. I put it in the back of the work truck and asked my boss if I could take WB to go pick out a TV and deliver it to her. I got the green light for that. We went to a pawn shop that I knew well and found myself a nice 36-inch flat screen TV. Not completely flat, like LCD, just an upgrade from the tube. Remember folks, we were still working with flip phones back then. WB thought I was buying it for her and tried to argue that it was way too nice and that we were spending way too much money. I told him just to give me $20 and not to worry about the price. He saw why when we opened up the back of the work truck, and his grin was as big as mine. I did deliver that nice bigger TV to my house where I placed it where the other television had been. I spent the time driving explaining to him that I already had the television to replace hers at home, and we both knew that she was going to be furious, but my boss did say equal to or better, and you can't get more equal to than the exact same television. We delivered the television. When she answered the door, I set my TV next to hers on the ground. WB already had his flip phone open with the camera engaged. I plugged it in showed her it worked, and WB snapped a picture of it. CL immediately started going on a tirade about how she was supposed to get a new television. She told me that my boss had promised her a flat TV. Then I explained to her the fact that I was only responsible for giving her the equivalent of what she lost. When she realized she wasn't winning the argument, we were on our way out. She actually had the nerve to ask us to put it back up on the milk crates for her. We told her that if she wanted it up there, she could get it up there herself. Our responsibility to her was over. WB and I loaded up into our box truck and rode into the sunset, never to darken her doorstep again. P.S. She did call the store and complain a day or so later, but I did explain to my boss exactly what happened. Apparently, the idea to make us replace the TV was his boss's call, and he didn't exactly agree with it either, but with the picture and the receipt which just said RCA TV. Not the size or anything. That's why I love pawn shops. He also explained to her that we were only responsible for equal value, and in the end, I was only out the amount of money I could have gotten for that TV on trade, which I found out later wasn't much. Thank you all, and good night. Edit. Just realized I wasn't very clear on one point. She had the leaning tower really close to the front door. I believe she was hoping that we would knock it over, and when we failed to live up to her expectation, she knocked it over herself while we were in the other room. Okay, now thank you all, and good night, and thanks for also watching the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, as well as what you think about these maliciously complied with events, and what you want to see next time. Bye bye.